tens of thousands of others were lost at Majdanek.
On November the 3rd of 1943, they brought loudspeakers, they played some very beautiful music, and they machine gunned 70, almost 18,000 people in one day, calling it a harvest day.
By that time, Frajman had been moved to Buchenwald. Even today, he keeps the jacket he wore.
All I had was my number.
Do you still remember that number?
68616 from Buchenwald. I do not remember the number that I had in Majdanek.
But he will never forget what he saw.
That never got away from us. Never got away. That is from within the ghetto, concentration camps, labor camps, wherever we were, there was death around us. By any method, that is by hanging, by gassing, by shooting, by clubbing you to death, that was always around us.
In May of 1945, the Germans surrendered. Out of 9 million Jews who had resided in Europe before the Holocaust, only 3 million survived. For some, it was pure luck. For others, it was sheer determination.
I just wanted to survive, because Hitler said that in 1945, the only living Jew will be in a museum under glass. And I tried in my simple way to show him that he's wrong, that we did survive.
Dr. Leon Weisberg teaches Holocaust studies at Lynn University. He says exterminating the Jews was always Hitler's plan.
The final solution was simple. Exterminate all the Jews. You've tried to solve the problem by converting, by relocating them, by ghettoizing them, by expelling them from your country, sending them to another country. That was not a solution. That was just temporary. And he said the final solution is to eliminate the Jews. And by eliminating the problem, then there would be no more an issue of a problem.
Hitler committed suicide. High German officials were tried at Nuremberg. Many were executed. Shockingly, many ordinary citizens claimed they never knew what was going on. To this day, that enrages survivors.
Of course they knew. How could they not know? Their fathers were Nazis. Their fathers used to murder people during the day and come home at night and kiss their children. How could these people do such a thing? I mean, it's beyond belief.
The notion that so many Germans didn't know is ridiculous, says Professor Weisberg.
Somebody made the ovens. These crematoria were built. They didn't exist. They were built. So someone had to make the oven. They had to make them to specs. That means an architect was involved. Architects and engineers were involved. And they had to draw the specs. How large is the body? How large will the body be on 170 calories a day over the period of 4 months? Okay, and how many bodies can we put in at one time? And then the rollers and the trays, and it was designed specifically for the purpose of burning bodies. So when someone says we didn't know that that was going to be its ultimate use, even on the other side, the ashes there was a place to shovel ashes out. Well, when you're baking bread, you don't get ashes. You would need a place to shovel ashes out.
Every year, the League for Educational Awareness of the Holocaust, LEA, sponsors a trip to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. for high school teachers. Eileen Shapiro is their guide. She's in charge of Holocaust studies for the school district of Palm Beach County.
Really, there's nothing better for me than to take teachers on a field study to the museum, overseas to the concentration camps, because they come away with such a feeling that some of my emotion is transferred to them.
They bring along Liesel Bogart, who was 13 when the Germans invaded her hometown of Prague. She tours the exhibitions of the ghetto at Terezin, where she and her family were confined. The Nazis, she says, hid what they were doing. On one occasion, when the Red Cross was inspecting, they set up the ghetto to look like a normal town.
We were told to create a little village, like storefronts with a grocery store, a bakery, a bank for which they picked false money, which some have here. It's also, I think, in the museum. and we had rehearsals, dress rehearsal. There was an orchestra playing, a playground for children was made. When the Red Cross left, this make-believe village disappeared, and the participants in that hoax were all sent on the next cattle car train into Auschwitz, Birkenau, into the gas.
There are pictures of ovens, shoes, human hair, all taken from the Jews before they were gassed.
I'm leaving here with an image of shoes and hair and voices. So, I mean, it definitely impacted my life. I feel changed.
I'm an emotional person to begin with, so things affect me more than maybe others. But it's a physical feeling. And going through these things, it's this heaviness.
The museum is filled with pictures from the ghettos and from the concentration camps. And then there are those notorious cattle cars which transported people to their deaths. Kuba Beck, another survivor, came from Krakow. He remembers one day he came upon a cattle car that was waiting to be moved.
We opened up the cattle cars and we found out that they're full of people, and some people were still alive and some people already died because were frozen and there was no food. Would you believe it? The people actually were eating the flesh of the dead people to keep themselves alive.
At the Holocaust Museum, Liesl Bogart finds she can't enter the cattle car exhibit.
I myself cannot face up stepping into one of those cars, but you have to stand close by, as we do with the teachers, and just look in the darkness and picture 80, 90 people squeezed in as animals.
For the teachers, it was a powerful experience.
It's hard to put into words, you know. My heart has opened up more.
I'm tired of talking about and studying Darfur and everything else after, but not doing anything else at the right time. We need to stop things at the moment things are about to happen, rather than just saying, gee, we should have done this.
We've become bystanders in our own lives, and it needs to change, and we need to get our kids to see why it matters.
And we need to make it relevant, and we need to remind them daily that this could happen, whether you're Jewish or not.
Each year, Jews around the world remember the Holocaust on Yom HaShoah, the Day of Destruction. Those who survived believe they have a special obligation to remind people of what happened.
That's why when some people say, it never happened, I have my response. Don't ever let anybody put a veil on history. Because I am one of the last people that you will come in contact with that survived. I am history.
I have the most wonderful credentials for hatred. I earned the right to hate. But my answer is no, I do not hate. I dislike, but I do not hate, because this four-letter word is the cause of all the problems. And Hitler wanted to make a hater out of me, and I am not going to permit him. I would not let him to think that I am a hater, because that was his creation and not mine. And I will not follow him with that.
The trial of the major war criminals took place at Nuremberg in 1945. Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, and Joseph Goebbels had committed suicide before the trials began, but 22 of the top leaders of the Third Reich were put in the dock. Come with us as we revisit the Nuremberg trials.